The hardest part about becoming disciplined is being able to practice it every day. It's easy to have self-control one time, easy to lock in for an hour or two, but doing it over weeks and months and years, that's much harder to live out. So in this video, I'm going to give you 3 ways you can feel like being more disciplined so you can do it more consistently. Now, what is discipline? Discipline, in simple terms, is doing what's right regardless of how you feel. It's doing the right thing when you feel bad, and doing not the wrong thing when you feel like doing the wrong thing. How do we do this? Well, we do this first by having mental toughness. As my basketball coach described it, your ability to do something despite how you feel. The more mentally tough you are, the more you're going to practice discipline. But that seems contrary to what I just said. I said I'm going to give you 3 ways to feel like being disciplined, and I just said have mental toughness. Well, mental toughness is not just feeling like doing something, but you need motivation regardless, because it's your why behind what you're doing. When you have a strong enough why, you're going to respond in a way that's good regardless of how you feel. I love how Eric Thomas described this using the lion and the gazelle. He said, the lion does not need to be pushed. The lion does not need anything external. That thing that is need is inside. And so every day the lion runs and chases gazelle. Why? Because he realizes that if he is to survive, if his kids are to survive, he must eat. What he's describing there is motivation. The lion runs and chases gazelle, not because he wants to all the time, and not because he feels like it all the time, but because he's motivated. He has a why. He knows that if he does not catch the gazelle, his kids won't eat. And that motivates him to have the mental toughness to be able to have consistent action. The same way, when we have a strong enough why, it will motivate us to have consistent discipline. So how can we make this why? How can we build a strong enough why? Well, like the lion, we can also have our why set on our family members. If we're in a position where we have to work so our family can eat, well, then that's going to motivate us to work. Another way is reframing your situations. And this is why a lot of people lack mental toughness. They're in a situation where it's bad enough for them to want the change, to be motivated to get a different result. However, the situation is good enough for them to be okay with staying where they are. That's why it's smart enough to get in a position where you can hate your situation. Sometimes better to be in a worse situation, and that'll motivate you to change even more. This is one thing that's seen to happen with me. I'm in college right now and I have all A's and B's. However, my standard is an A, and a standard is a mental line I refuse to go under. That means anything outside of that standard, anything under that standard is not acceptable to me. And because I have that standard and my results go under that, getting B's and like 85s and like 87s, well, that motivates me to get a different outcome. And that's what we can all do. We can all choose to set a standard for ourselves saying, hey, this situation is bad enough for me to now be motivated to want to get a different outcome. And we all determine what standards we have. No one sets the standards we get to choose. Society doesn't make us have one. Our family doesn't make us have one. We can make it up in our own minds. So choose to set higher standards for yourself. And guess what? That motivates you to put forth more work, to become more disciplined so you can get that standard. And now also build mental toughness, because it doesn't matter how bad you don't want to do it. It doesn't matter how bad I don't want to study. Because my grades are not where I want them to be, I'm motivated to be disciplined and study. Now, the second way to make yourself feel like being disciplined is by building motivation. Now, I know I just talked about motivation when I mentioned mental toughness, but this time it's not why you do what you do, but it's actually feeling like putting in work, feeling like putting in action. It's the feeling of motivation. One way to see motivation is as the product of aligned perspectives and values. When I have the right frame and I value what I'm doing, and those things align towards a goal, I'm going to be motivated to put in work to reach that goal. For example, in the past, my goal was to make the NBA. And I had the perspective of, if I work out, I can become good enough to make the NBA. And I had a value on becoming a great basketball player. So because those perspectives and values aligned towards that goal, I was motivated to put in work even when I didn't want to. I felt like working out. I felt like watching film and eating the right foods. I felt like doing that, even though at the same time, I didn't want to. My flesh was saying no. My flesh was saying, let's be lazy. But my motivation, my feeling was also towards that same outcome. But that's the thing about it. You can make yourself feel like doing something, but at the same time, you can feel like not doing it. I can be motivated to make a video, but still not want to make it. So what should we do about that? What we need to do is capture our thoughts. I love a framework my pastor gave me. He called it ACT. Awareness, capture, trade. When we become aware of our thoughts and become noticing what we're thinking about, we can then capture that thought and examine it and say, is this a constructive thought? Is this a thought I want to continue to meditate on? Or is it something I need to trade out for something better? So when I have a thought saying, hey, I'm lazy, I don't feel like working hard, I don't feel like working out today. Well, I can capture that thought and examine it and say, is this a good thought? When I find out it's not good, I can trade it out and say, yes, I do want to work out. Yes, I do want to go and try to reach my goal. By trading out my thoughts for better thoughts, that's going to help me to have my motivation set on the outcome I desire. Because your actions are often a product of what thoughts you consistently have. It's hard to act in ways inconsistent to the thoughts you repeatedly meditate on. So by trading out negative thoughts and unconstructive thoughts with profitable thoughts, you're now motivated to have action towards a better outcome. A great example of this was my inconsistent identity in the past when it came to talking to girls. I wanted to, but I didn't feel confident doing so. So because I had a feeling going this way and a feeling going that way, even though I was motivated to talk to them, I didn't always do what I willed to do. So what did I have to do? I had to capture that thought and examine it. Why am I thinking this way? Is this a good thought to have? And I realized after catching it, a lot of times it was based upon pride. When I was talking to someone, I didn't want the people around me to think, hey, this guy is dating this person. And because of that pride, that sense of caring what other people thought about me, I was acting ways inconsistent to what I wanted to actually do. So because I now captured that thought and I could trade out for something better, which is nobody's probably thinking about me, I'm now able to be motivated and act in alignment with that motivation so I can get the outcome, the result that I want to get. So be deliberate about trading out your thoughts because your actions, once again, they're a product of what thoughts you consistently have. So when you have two conflicting desires, two conflicting feelings, when you catch your thought, you can now align yourself with the one you want to go towards. And I love the way Myron Golden defined anticipation when he said, anticipation is the energy I get when the outcome I expect is desirable to me. For example, making these videos. I have to make videos a few times a week. I try to post 2 long-form videos every single week. So doing this isn't always fun. However, if I have anticipation, I'm going to desire to have the discipline to make the video. If I say, man, if I make this video, it's going to get 100,000 views, I'm building anticipation. I'm having good expectations for the work I'm putting in, and that gives me energy towards doing it. And whatever we have energy towards, we're going to desire more. So because I have more energy towards making videos, I desire to make videos more. Another example of this is going back to my reframe of talking to girls. When I build anticipation, I all of a sudden have more of a desire to do so. If I say, man, if I ask this girl out, she's going to say yes. What is that? That's a good expectation. So now I have energy towards asking her out, make me desire to do that more. But another frame we can use to make ourselves more disciplined towards action is the opposite of anticipation, which I define as dread. Dread is the energy I get from having a bad expectation. So going back to the example with the girl, if I said, man, she's going to say no if I ask her out, well, all of a sudden I have energy against doing that. And that makes me desire not to ask her out because of my bad expectations. The thing is, we can use dread in a positive way, in a way that makes us more disciplined. And we do that by framing bad outcomes, bad actions as how bad they are. For example, eating unhealthy foods. If I want to have the discipline to eat healthier foods, I can reframe the junk food I don't want to eat through dread. If I want to not eat cookies and cakes, I can say to myself, man, I hate cookies. I hate cake. It's going to make me fat. It's going to make me overweight. It's going to make me take me further away from my goals. By having all these bad expectations towards the junk food I don't want to eat, I'm building energy against eating that. And that's going to make me desire not to eat that type of food more. So by using our expectations in empowering ways or disempowering ways, we can reframe the actions that we do, giving us energy towards the outcome we want to have and building discipline in that way. Another way we can do this is through urgency. I define urgency as the energy I apply to tasks that needs to get done. For example, let's say you have a math project that's due 2 weeks from now. Well, you're not going to have a lot of discipline and self-control towards doing the math project naturally because the deadline is so far away. However, when the deadline is 2 days from now, all of a sudden you have energy, you have discipline. Why? Not because you changed, but because the task itself became more urgent. There's more energy you had to apply to tasks in order to get it done on time. That's why you had more discipline. In the same way, we can build mental deadlines within ourselves, giving ourselves more energy to do the task and have more discipline to do so as well. A good example of this is the book I wrote. It's called Controlling the Controllables, and it teaches people how they can become influential. Now, one thing that helped me to write that book was using urgency. Last year when I wrote it, I told myself, hey, I want to get this done by summer. What was that? That's a mental deadline that was self-imposed. Amazon didn't say get it done by summer. My parents didn't say that, but I set that deadline myself. Why? So I can build more urgency, more discipline, more energy towards that task. And guess what? I believe it helped me to get the task done, not on time, but I got it done way faster than if I didn't have the same sense of urgency. So build mental deadlines. Even going back to the example of the girl, if I say, man, someone's going to ask her out tomorrow if I don't do so today, what's that? That's called urgency. Even though that may not be true, I'm building more energy towards that task to get it done today instead of continuing to procrastinate on it. So I'm going to be more likely to ask her out today. So by building urgency, we can have more discipline. And those are 3 ways to make yourself feel like being disciplined. Build mental toughness, which is your ability to do something despite how you feel. You do that by having a why that's greater than yourself. Maybe reframe your situations, or maybe use your family as a why so you can be disciplined to put in work even though you may not want to. The second way is actually having a feeling of motivation. It's when your perspectives and your values align towards a goal. It makes you motivated to put in work so you can get that outcome. And the last way is through reframing your energy. Use anticipation, use dread, use urgency to make you have energy towards the task, and that gives you a greater desire to get that task done. If you like this type of content, feel free to subscribe. Also, if you live in the state of Georgia and you have any teens or organization or churches that would want someone to speak for them, I'd love to speak to you for free about discipline, about how you can use your mind, train your actions, and get better results through becoming more disciplined. So you can DM me at Alston_inspiration.daily if you would like me to reach out to you about how I can speak for you. Also, if you want to learn how to become influential, check out this book. It's called Controlling the Controllables, and it teaches you how to become influential without having a position of authority. See, it's easy to be influential in other people if you're a parent to a child, or if you're a police officer to a citizen. When you have a sense of authority, you can become influential naturally. But when you don't have that position of authority, like a teammate to teammate, or like a coworker to coworker, or a student to the other classmate, if you don't have a position of authority, how can you be influential? And the answer is through controlling your actions. When you control what you can control, you influence others to also control what they can control and get better results in all. So if you want to learn how to do this, check this book out. You can find it on my website, alston.com. You can find my website at alstonmurray.com, and also buy it on Amazon. And thank you guys for watching. Check out my video soon.